Welcome to this lecture series on sociology of culture. In the previous lecture, we studied about the different approaches towards culture. We also studied what is culture, what is the definition, the sociological definition of culture, and what are the scientific reasons behind culture and how culture evolved from hunter-gatherer societies to modern society based on the internet mass media. So now we come to the elements of culture. We already studied this topic, but let me just revise for the sake of those who missed it. Culture actually consists of traits, patterns, complexes, themes, and ethos, but actually the elements of culture can be divided into symbolic and material. So if, for example, a question arises, somebody asks you in an interview or in an exam that what are the elements of culture, so you can just write that there are two types of elements of culture that are symbolic and material. In symbolic elements of culture, we have social norms, we have languages, we have symbols, we have beliefs, we have skills, rituals, status, and knowledge. Whereas in material culture, we have technology, tools, machines, building, dress, hardware, infrastructures, etc. So the tangible part or the elements of culture are included in the material elements, whereas the abstract elements are included in the symbolic elements of culture. However, sometimes it happens that often in some books you read about traits, patterns, cultural complexes, cultural themes, and cultural ethos. It gets a bit confusing. So let me just remove this confusion. Trait is the indivisible part or element of culture. If you divide it further, it loses its meaning. For example, you have a laptop or you have a phone, a mobile phone. You are listening to me on a mobile phone. So if you remove its cover and the back and the battery, so its functionality ends. So a mobile phone cannot be, or even the mobile battery, it cannot be divided further. Uh, or you can say a marker, or you can say greetings if you are talking about symbolic elements, or a skill like driving. Driving is a skill, so it's a cultural trait. We learn it. We learn driving. We don't have inborn capacity to drive. So these are traits. For example, a wedding ring or a dress, that is a cultural trait. Patterns is the different types of traits. For example, wedding dress, military uniform, a party dress, casual dress, night dress, winter dress, summer dressing. So all these are included in patterns, cultural patterns, such as types of marriages. Then we come to cultural complexes. So it is a combination of traits, simply. For example, a marriage or a wedding is a cultural complex, whereas the different rituals uh, included, especially in Indian subcontinent, you have Doli, you have Mehndi, you have Ruskhati, you have Walima, and all these rituals. So these are called com complexes. So, for example, uh, a college is a cultural complex, and educational college is a cultural complex, whereas exams, timetable, class, uniform, curriculum, courses, degrees, all these are traits. Now we come to themes. Theme is like the summary of all these traits and complexes. For example, what is the summary? What is the conclusion we can draw from the type of marriage. So it is uh, having socially and legally approved life partners. So this is what marriage is. Ethos is the central idea. Ethos is the central idea of any culture. For example, in Pakistani society, we say that Pakistan should be a welfare state based on Islamic principles of social justice. Such as Imran Khan, who is the Prime Minister of Pakistan, he says that we will have the state of Medina. Similarly, Canadian society or Kiwi society, they're very plural societies and secular societies. Or if you go to Saudi Arabia or Iran, they're religious societies. I mean, Saudi Arabia is dominated by Wahhabi sect of Islam, whereas Iran is dominated by Jafriya or Shia sect of Islam. Or you can say the ethos of China is communism or state capitalism. Nowadays, there is a debate whether China is a capitalist or state capitalist. So, we already went through all these types that material culture includes the tangible parts of culture, symbolic culture includes uh, software, religion, beliefs, etc. So symbolic culture is the part of culture that really resists social change, and this is called cultural inertia. We will study that further, and the gap between material culture, because material culture can change easily. We want a new mobile, we want a new car, but we do not want a new religion. Similarly, our real and ideal culture, just like in uh, material, non-material culture, we are really attached to our symbolic culture. For example, uh, we may like the material culture of Italy, that is pizza, uh, or any other Italian dish, but we may not agree with the Roman Catholic Church of Italy. Similarly, we have ideal culture, which we consider to be good, but we do not follow, and real culture, which we follow in actuality, even if we don't like it. Okay? So it doesn't mean that we necessarily don't like real culture. We can also like real culture and follow it. Whereas ideal culture, we only like it, but we don't follow it. Uh, in Pakistan, you can say that it's kind of funny, but we like honesty, but we are not honest. We like merit, but we are not, we don't make our decisions on merit. We are a society plagued by nepotism, uh, transparency. We want transparency. We like transparency, but not for ourselves. Any public official, if he or she is asked about being transparent, so she or he just uh, calls foul play, and he or she considers the public realm as his or her personal realm. So real culture in Pakistan, unfortunately, there is a lot of corruption. We don't like corruption, but we do it. Pakistanis, we are a very conservative society, but still, Pakistanis, or especially males, I believe only males, watch pornography. Then we come to subculture and counterculture. So subculture is the constituent part of a larger culture that plays a specific function in the larger context. For example, in Pakistan, you can say Tablighi Jamaat, the pilgrimage movement, which originated in northern India in 1920s, or military or army culture. We have inherited a very unique and colonial era British culture, elitist culture, and it is still going strong. And that's why you see that the army, cantonments or the army officers, uh, they really share some characteristics with the British officers of yesteryears and the previous century and the early half of the 20th century. Air Force is a bit different because Air Force came into being after Pakistan was created. So campus culture is very different. Students have a different and unique culture than the general society, the general public. Most of them are youth. There are lots of parties, lots of tours, lots of gossip, lots of fashion. Saraf community, we mean the jewelers or the different local cultures such as Peshawari. Peshawari are the people that are local to Peshawar, Mardan, etc., etc., Khatak, Yusufzai. Anywho, counterculture is a minority culture which does not have power, but it wants to gain power and it wants to destroy the dominant culture in a society. For example, TTP, Tehreek-e-Taliban, Pakistan, Tehreek-e-Labbaik, Pakistan, TLP, radical socialists who want to destroy uh, the capitalist system, or radical feminists who wants to really uproot patriarchy, uh, or even dislodge family, or Baloch separatists who want to divide Pakistan. So these are countercultures who want to replace the status quo in Pakistan. You can apply it for other nations and countries as well. And there are various other types of cultures, homogeneous culture. We also call it monoculture, heterogeneous, sexist culture, which is discriminatory, pluralist culture, which has lots of cultures in one society, theocratic, sacred culture, which is based on religion, secular culture, capitalist culture, high culture of the upper class, blame culture, in which we blame others for our faults, like anti-Semitism, a culture of poverty of the poor classes, rural, urban, metropolitan of a big city, sports culture like the Kiwis, the Aussies, primitive culture of hunter-gatherers, traditional culture of agriculture, church culture is a religion-based culture, and global culture.